We have breaking news out of Israel-Hamas war. 3 Israeli hostages have been found dead. Actually, they were actually shot dead by Israeli troops. This incredible tragedy is just so heartbreaking on every level. It's unclear at this point exactly how these hostages were out in the open. But here's what we do know so far. According to Israeli sources, uh, some of the Israeli Defense Forces were on conducting combat operations in the northern part of the Gaza Strip in Gaza City, one of the suburbs, when they came across these 3 men whom they identified as hostile, and they shot and killed them. When they went and found the bodies, especially the apparently the hostage that has the red hair was immediately recognized by the soldiers, and they realized they'd made a mistake. And then they came and brought the bodies back. At this point, the Israeli Defense Forces and their government sources are not saying how the hostages got out, how they were in the open, what were the circumstances of the shooting. They haven't announced any of that yet. That's all to come. And right now, of course, they're just talking about how heartbroken they are for the family members who you can only imagine are just in anguish right now. I mean, they've been fearing that they could be killed by Hamas. And then to find out that they actually escaped somehow, they got away, and then were killed by their own troops is I just can't even imagine what they're going through right now, or the soldiers that actually did it. My heart goes out to every single one of them that they do. However, this illustrates, or at least it has the potential of illustrating, one of the things I've been warning about from the outset here, and that is on what are the rules of engagement. One of the things we have identified even earlier today when I was on a couple of news shows is what is the Israeli Defense Forces telling their soldiers to identify threat from non-threat? How do you identify the Hamas fighter from just an Arab man, from just a Palestinian person who's in the combat zone, because it's so full of civilians? If you don't have very distinguished and clarified rules of engagement, so that you have to have what we in the U.S. Army in those circumstances that I saw during my combat deployments there, they had to have what we call PID, positive identification of a target. If you couldn't absolutely say, yes, this was a hostile target and it was shooting at me, or it's 100% sure it's the bad guy, you can't take it out. Now, that makes the operations a lot more difficult. It makes it, you have to be very distinguished where you're going on there. Sometimes you can't tell, and you have to hold fire. That means it's going to take longer to get operations done. Your military will take higher risk and probably higher casualties. Those are all true. But doing so is the right thing to do morally, and even on a practical level, that keeps the number of people who are against you down, because I can assure you, if the rules of engagement are really very loose, if it turns out that the reason why these soldiers shot them is because they saw men in the combat zone and their rules of engagement allow them to shoot anyone. If they see a man of military age, that they have the freedom to shoot. That is at least plausible based on what we know happened. Now, we won't know for sure until it does, but what we do know for sure is that the rules of engagement are clearly very liberal, even in the way they drop the bombs. As we talked about on a previous deep dive episode, information has just come out recently that the IDF is using the majority, or not a majority, but a large percentage of dumb bombs, of unguided weapons. And the only reason you use those is because you want to destroy an area, because they're not precise. So you can't say that they're targeted information. Further, our National Security Advisor Sullivan released earlier today said that the U.S. government is trying to encourage the Israeli Defense Forces to be much more distinguished in what they're doing and to have a lower level of intensity, and he said they should start using intelligence-driven targeting data information to make targets. Now, that got my attention, because if you're asking them to start using intelligence-driven targeting, that implies that they're not using intelligence-driven targeting. What that means is that if they suspect something to be a target, they'll attack it and destroy it, whether it is or not, whether there's innocent people inside or not, whether it's Hamas or who knows. They're just targeting it. And that's why you see so many weapon systems being employed in the zone, and so many people are being killed, so many innocent Palestinians. Now, look, the truth of it is, there's many in Israel that aren't really concerned about this. They don't care because of the heinous nature of the Hamas attacks against them on 10/7. Many of them are just turning a blind eye to this, and some of them, according to polls, are actually think that the level of violence is perfectly fine. They're okay with it. But this is not good for their long-term security, because as I keep saying to anyone who will listen, you've got to be distinguished in going after the people who deserve to be attacked, the Hamas terrorists, and not just anyone who's Palestinian in the combat zone. They can't get out. That, you know, you can have those maps and say move to this area to that, but there's nowhere to go. And even when they go to those places, they're still getting bombed. Every time you kill someone who's innocent, their family members who may have not even liked Hamas are now going to join the resistance against the Israelis. Why would they not? You can see why there would be a lot of pressure for the surviving family members to actually retaliate against the people who killed their family members. It's a natural human inclination. If we want to prevent that, if we want to reduce that, if Israel wants to reduce that, to give them a better chance for peace long term after the war against Hamas is over, for them to have a chance to coexist with the Palestinian people, they've got to care about the Palestinian lives. And we'll see what happens after this. When the information comes out and we find more information out about how this mistake was made, this could provide the impetus to where Israel will have to start using a more restrictive and targeted rules of engagement, so that they don't kill any unintended targets. They don't kill any innocent people. They definitely don't kill any more hostages that may come out. But if they don't change course, these kinds of accidents are going to happen, or they're simply going to continue to kill innocent people. And I'm telling you from personal experience, when you kill someone in the name of going after the terrorist, and they're not terrorists, and they end up, it's just innocent people get killed, you create enemies that weren't enemies before. I'm telling you, I've seen it firsthand. There was a particular Taliban mid-level leader that we captured during the time I was there, and I talked to the interrogator, and he told me that it was really stark that when he asked the man, why did you join the Taliban? And he said he just turned on him in anger. And he said, I hated the Taliban. I never wanted to be part of the Taliban, but you made me, because you killed 3 of my family members when you were going after Al-Qaeda, when you're going after the Taliban in our area. He said, that's the only time we did. And that's just one personal experience that I had. But I assure you, there were thousands of other ones. And that's been magnified significantly more here because of the concentration of the people and the significant level of bombing going on here. So this is a terrible situation. And again, forget about everything else, but I grieve with all of the people that are involved in this, and especially the family members of the survivors. I just can't even imagine. And we just pray that God grant peace into this situation of such unimaginable pain. But if Israel wants to avoid any future pain like this, they're going to have to do better on the battlefield, no matter how hard it is, because taking the quick, easy way out almost never produces good results. And I think that's what you're seeing right here. Thank you for joining and tuning into us today. We're going to continue to follow this breaking situation. It's going to be evolving, and I'm sure as more information comes out, we'll be right here to give you the so what and to give you a deeper dive on what really matters for you to know. Thanks. We'll remain unintimidated and uncompromised so that you get the information you need. We'll see you next time on Deep Dive.